The beach is full, and somewhere a tourist is taking a selfie with Christ the Redeemer. By every postcard metric, Rio is paradise. But drive 15 minutes from Copacabana and you will find streets that used to be full now standing empty. Businesses shuttered, for sale signs that have been there for months. Middle-class families who lived in these neighborhoods for 3 generations quietly packing up and leaving. Not from the favelas themselves, from the areas around them. The neighborhoods caught in between. Brazil's economy is growing. Rio hosted the Olympics and the World Cup. Tourism is up, yet real estate prices near favela borders have collapsed by double digits. This is not a story about poverty. This is a story about what happens when two systems of governance exist in the same city, and one of them keeps expanding. The people caught in the middle are disappearing. To understand why people are fleeing these border zones, you first need to understand what a favela actually is. Not the movie version, not the tourism version, the real thing. In Brazil, a favela is where you live if you have no conditions. That is the local phrase. No conditions means no money, no options, no way out. There are 763 favelas in Rio de Janeiro alone, 1,400 across the state. Rocinha, the largest favela in Latin America, holds approximately 300,000 people in a space you could walk across in 20 minutes. This system is not new. It started around 1930, nearly a century of parallel city building. Here's what most outsiders get wrong. The geography is inverted. In Los Angeles, the rich live at the top of the hills. Hollywood Hills. Views cost money. In Rio, it is the opposite. The wealthy live at the bottom, close to the metro, close to the beach, close to pharmacies and supermarkets and jobs. The poor live at the top, where buses do not go, where you either pay for a motorcycle taxi or you walk up stairs that were built almost 100 years ago. The higher you climb, the cheaper the rent and the harder the life. And here's the part that makes Rio structurally unique. These two worlds sit directly next to each other. You can stand on a rooftop in Rocinha and point to a luxury apartment building 300 meters away. Same hillside, completely different realities. Inside the favelas, there are no formal addresses. Streets have names, but houses often have no numbers. Mail gets collected from the post office by local residents and sorted into community boxes. Residents pay for internet, but electricity and water are free because the connections are illegal. The government does not provide services, so the residents built their own systems. Which raises the question nobody in the tourism brochures wants to answer. If the government is absent, who actually runs these places? The answer is drug gangs, and not in the chaotic way you might imagine. In a structured, organized, almost administrative way. When residents of Rocinha describe their relationship with the government, they use one word: independent. The government does not look up to us, one local put it, so we do not look back to them. No public services reach the upper areas. No police presence, no sanitation, no infrastructure investment. The state essentially abandoned these communities decades ago. Something else filled the vacuum. The gangs that control favelas function as a parallel government. They enforce rules, they maintain order, they provide services, and they do it with a brutality that makes the system work. The rules are simple: no stealing, no fighting, no selling without permission. The punishment for breaking any of these rules is the same: death. There is no trial, there is no appeal. A gang member in Rocinha explained it directly. If you steal from anybody here, you lose your life. If you sell on our territory without approval, you lose your life. If you act without the boss's permission, you lose your life. And here's the part that confuses outsiders. Residents report feeling safer inside the favela than in the city outside. The logic is brutal but consistent. Crime against residents is not tolerated because it disrupts business. Single mothers receive help with food and necessities. Disputes get resolved. The streets are orderly, police rarely enter. They do not know the territory, the alleys twist, the stairs dead end. The geography itself is a defense system. When police do come, they come in force. Shootouts happen. Residents shelter in place. Then the police leave and the gangs remain. The problem is not what happens inside the favela. Inside, the system functions on its own terms. The problem is what happens at the borders, where gang territory meets city territory, where two systems of law exist on the same block. That is where everything breaks down. Favelas are not static, they expand, and the areas directly adjacent to them absorb the consequences. The border zones are where the two systems collide. On one side, Brazilian law, police, courts, also property rights, taxes. On the other side, gang law, territory, hierarchy, lethal enforcement. The people living in between exist in a gray zone where neither system fully protects them. When gang conflicts escalate, the violence spills outward. Stray bullets hit apartment buildings that are technically outside the favela. Shootouts between rival factions or between gangs and police turn ordinary streets into crossfire zones. A mother walking her child to school in a border neighborhood faces risk that someone living 5 kilometers away cannot imagine. But the violence is only part of it. The economic pressure is constant. Businesses in border zones face a choice that is not really a choice. Pay protection money or close. Some call it a security fee. Some call it a tax. The gangs call it the cost of operating near their territory. Either way, the money flows upward and the business owner has no recourse. Go to the police and you become a target. Refuse to pay and your store burns down. Many simply leave. Property values reflect this reality. Apartments near favela borders sell for a fraction of what identical units cost in safer districts. Families who bought homes decades ago watch their equity evaporate. They cannot sell for what they paid. They cannot stay without accepting the risk. So they abandon properties, they take losses, they move to other cities entirely. The result is visible from the street. Shuttered storefronts, empty apartments, for sale signs that fade in the sun because nobody is buying. The neighborhoods are not poor. They are trapped. Too close to the favela to attract investment. Too far inside the city to qualify for the protection that gang governance provides. The people leaving these border zones are not the poorest residents. They are the middle class. The teachers, the shop owners, the nurses, the accountants who built lives in these neighborhoods when the economics still made sense. For decades, living near a favela was a trade-off. Higher risk but lower rent. Proximity to problems but also proximity to the city center. Working families accepted the compromise because the alternative was commuting 2 hours each way from distant suburbs where they could afford safe housing. That calculation has collapsed. Rent in safer districts has increased, but not as fast as the risk in border zones has escalated. Gang wars have intensified. Police pacification programs that were supposed to reclaim favela territory have failed or been abandoned. The Olympics came and went. The World Cup came and went. The promised transformation never materialized. What remained was a military occupation that eventually withdrew, leaving power vacuums that triggered new waves of violence. So the middle class does the math. The apartment near Rocinha costs less, but your child cannot play outside. The commute from the distant suburb is brutal, but nobody shoots at the bus. The shop in the border zone has loyal customers, but the protection payments eat your margin, and one dispute with the wrong person ends everything. The math only goes one direction now. What makes this exodus different from normal urban migration is the permanence. These families are not moving temporarily. They are selling at a loss and never coming back. They are warning relatives. They are telling their children to build lives elsewhere. The institutional knowledge of these neighborhoods, the social fabric, the relationships between families who lived on the same blocks for generations, all of it dissolves when the middle class leaves. And the people who remain are the ones who cannot afford to go, which accelerates the decline, which pushes out more families. The cycle feeds itself. The Brazilian government has tried to solve this problem multiple times. Every attempt has either failed or made things worse. The most ambitious effort was the UPP program, Unidade de Polícia Pacificadora, pacifying police units. The concept was straightforward. Send specially trained police into favelas. Establish permanent posts. Drive out the gangs. Reclaim territory for the state. It launched in 2008 with massive funding and international attention. For a few years, it appeared to work. Violence dropped in some areas. Property values near pacified favelas increased. Tourists felt safe enough to take guided tours into communities that had been no-go zones for decades. The World Cup and Olympics provided political motivation to maintain the program. Then the money ran out. Brazil entered a severe recession. The state of Rio de Janeiro declared a financial emergency in 2016. Police salaries went unpaid for months. Officers abandoned posts. The permanent presence became sporadic. The gangs waited, watched, and returned. What followed was worse than what existed before. The pacification had disrupted established gang hierarchies. When the police withdrew, the multiple factions fought to fill the vacuum. Border zone violence intensified. Residents who had cooperated with police became targets. The trust that takes decades to build was destroyed in months. Other approaches have been proposed: social investment programs, job training initiatives, infrastructure development. Some have shown localized success. None have operated at scale. None have addressed the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem is this: the gangs provide something the state does not. Order, predictability, swift resolution of disputes, protection for residents who follow the rules. Until the government can offer a credible alternative, not just police presence, but actual services, actual opportunity, actual safety, the parallel system will persist. And as long as the parallel system persists, the border zones will remain unlivable for anyone with the means to leave. The government knows this. It simply has not solved it. Inside the favelas, life continues. That is the part that complicates the narrative. Residents wake up, go to work, raise children, build businesses, fall in love, grow old. The average income is between $150 and $300 per month. Rent runs about $150 to $200. The margins are brutal, but people make it work. They have made it work for nearly a century. The infrastructure they built themselves functions. Motorcycle taxis move 300,000 people up and down hills that buses cannot climb. Informal Wi-Fi companies provide internet fast enough to stream. Local entrepreneurs repair mopeds, sell food, cut hair, run daycares, and an entire economy operates without government support because government support never came. The social fabric is dense in ways that wealthy neighborhoods often lack. Everyone knows everyone. Debts are remembered. Favors are returned. When a single mother cannot feed her children, neighbors help. When someone dies, the community mourns together. The violence is real, but so is the solidarity. Young people born in favelas face a choice that is not really a choice. The legitimate economy offers jobs that pay minimum wage and require commutes of 2 hours each way to employers who discriminate against anyone with a favela address. The illegitimate economy offers faster money, local status, and a path that frequently ends in prison or death. Many choose legitimacy anyway. They study English from YouTube videos. They learn skills online. They build followings on social media. They hustle in ways that do not require guns. But the odds are stacked and they know it. The ones who make it out often describe the same feeling: guilt for leaving, responsibility to those who remain, a connection to the place that shaped them that never fully dissolves no matter how far they travel. The favelas are not just a problem to be solved. They are communities. That distinction matters. Policy that ignores it will continue to fail. So, where does this leave Rio? The favelas are not going anywhere. Nearly a century of history does not dissolve because the government announces another program. The gangs are not going anywhere. They provide order that the state has proven incapable of matching. The border zones will continue to empty because the people trapped there have no reason to stay and every reason to leave. What remains is a city fracturing into pieces that do not connect. The wealthy in their guarded towers, the poor in their hilltop communities. And the vanishing middle, the people who once bridged the gap, scattering to other cities where the math still works. Rio will still photograph beautifully. The beaches will still fill. Christ the Redeemer will still watch over it all. But the city that exists beneath the postcard is becoming somewhere else. And nobody in power is saying it out loud.